famous singer forced Black Boy to sing just to mock him. He hit notes she could never reach. Her hand grabbed Isaiah's shoulder hard enough to leave marks. Victoria Chase, 3 Grammys, 12 million followers, owner of the highest note in American pop, dragged an 11-year-old boy to center stage at the Imperial Theater. 800 people watched live. 4 million followed online. Folks, I found a volunteer. Victoria smiled at the cameras, teeth too white, spotlight gleaming off her $20,000 dress. This little boy from the school choir was humming backstage. Let's see if he can really sing or if he's just taking up space. The audience laughed. Some applauded. Isaiah Williams had trembling hands. The Lincoln Elementary School choir uniform, black pants his mother had bought at a thrift store and a white shirt ironed 3 times to hide that it was secondhand, looked ridiculously inadequate under those lights. He opened his mouth to say he didn't want this, that it was a mistake, that please let him go back to the other 20 choir students who had come to do backing vocals at the charity gala. But Victoria leaned in and whispered in his ear, her microphone off, his still broadcasting to millions of people. Fail in silence, boy. Be grateful you're on the same stage as me. She stepped back with a radiant smile. Give him Heavenly. The song that won me the Grammy for Song of the Year. Murmurs rippled through the audience. Heavenly had that impossible note at the end. The C6 in the whistle register that only Victoria Chase could hit. The note that had made her a legend. Except that 4 hours earlier, Isaiah had heard something that didn't make sense. The choir had arrived early for the dress rehearsal. While the other students waited backstage, Isaiah had wandered near the wings, curious to see the stage up close. And he heard Victoria rehearsing the bridge of Heavenly. Her voice was good. Trained, polished, expensive. But when she tried to reach that famous note, something broke. Her voice cracked somewhere around A5, 2 full tones below where it should have been. Victoria had stopped, frustrated, and yelled at the sound engineer. Bring the backing track up on that part. I need more support. The engineer adjusted something. When Victoria sang again, the note came out perfect. Too perfect. It didn't seem to come from her throat. It seemed to come from the speakers. Isaiah had perfect pitch. 1 in 10,000 people could identify any note just by hearing it. He could distinguish the difference between a live voice and a recording. He could hear the subtle digital shimmer, the way the note sat on top of the music instead of inside it. That perfect C6 wasn't Victoria Chase's. It was playback. He had gone back to the choir and stayed silent. Who would believe an 11-year-old boy from a poor neighborhood over a woman who had sold 15 million albums? But now, standing under the spotlights with her hand still marking his shoulder, Isaiah understood something else. Victoria knew he had heard her at rehearsal. That's why she had dragged him onto the stage. This wasn't about giving him a moment to shine. It was about making sure no one would ever believe him if he told the truth. The band started playing. The chords of Heavenly filled the theater. Isaiah looked at the audience, at the cameras, at the 4 million people watching, and remembered what his grandmother Loretta always said on Sunday mornings, before choir at New Grace Baptist Church. If someone tries to make you small, baby, you stand tall. God didn't give you that voice for you to swallow it. What Isaiah did in the next 3 minutes didn't just prove Victoria wrong. It destroyed everything she had built on lies. But before telling you what happened, you need to understand where Isaiah came from. How an 11-year-old boy from a 1-bedroom apartment in Oakland learned to hear what no one else could hear. If you're enjoying this story, subscribe to the channel now. Because what Isaiah is about to do next is something none of those 800 people would ever forget. Isaiah Williams was born with a gift no one in the family could explain. At 3, he cried when the radio played out-of-tune songs. At 5, he corrected the church pianist in the middle of service, saying the note was crooked. At 7, his grandmother Loretta took him to a music professor at UC Berkeley who tested him for 2 hours. This boy has perfect pitch, the professor said, removing his glasses with trembling hands. He can identify frequencies with the precision of electronic equipment. This is extremely rare. What do we do with this? Loretta asked. Professional training. Juilliard. Berkeley. European conservatories. That costs money we don't have. So Isaiah sang at church. He sang in the school choir at Lincoln Elementary, where the music budget had been cut for 4 consecutive years. He sang quietly in the bedroom he shared with his mother and grandmother, learning techniques from YouTube videos on Loretta's old phone. His range was abnormal. D3 in chest voice to G6 in whistle register. Notes so high they sounded like crystal bells. He didn't know this was extraordinary. He just knew it felt right. His mother, Diane, worked as a cashier at Walmart, 6 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon shift, then rushed to a second job cleaning offices until 10 at night. She slept 5 hours a night and still managed to iron Isaiah's shirt 3 times to hide that it was used. "We don't have money to give you singing lessons, baby," she said once, eyes red with exhaustion. "But you have something money can't buy. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise." Now, standing on that stage with the music starting, Isaiah thought about his mother. About how she would feel watching her son be humiliated on national television. The introduction to Heavenly continued playing. Victoria stepped back, crossing her arms, waiting for the spectacle of failure. "You can start whenever you want, sweetheart." Her voice dripped with false sweetness. Isaiah held the microphone. His hands still trembled, but something was changing inside him. The initial shame was giving way to something else. Something he had learned in the pews of New Grace Baptist Church, where his grandmother taught him that the voice was an instrument of truth, not lies. "Miss Chase." Victoria arched a perfect eyebrow. "Yes." "Can you turn off the backing track, please?" The theater went absolutely silent. Victoria blinked. "What?" "The backing track. The support track. I want to sing for real. Without electronic help." Confused murmurs rippled through the audience. Victoria forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "The backing track is part of the arrangement, sweetheart. But you sang without it at rehearsal." Isaiah kept his voice steady, though his heart was pounding. "You sang alone. I heard it." Victoria's smile froze. "Rehearsal is different from performance." "Then can you sing first? Show me how you do it without the track. So I can learn." The question hung in the air. Victoria stared at Isaiah. The audience stared at both of them. The cameras zoomed in. "You want me to audition for you?" "No, ma'am. I just want to see if you can hit the note." Silence. Then someone in the audience shouted, "That's right. Sing for us, Victoria." Others joined in. "No playback." "Show him." Victoria's face turned red. She turned to the sound engineer. "Turn off the backing track," she said through her teeth. The engineer hesitated. "Turn it off." He pressed a button. The music became thinner. Exposed. Victoria raised her microphone and began to sing. The first verses came out strong. Confident. Years of training visible in every controlled breath, every smooth transition. The audience relaxed. Maybe the boy was wrong. Maybe it was just a misunderstanding. Then she reached the bridge. The melody climbed. E4. G4. B4. Victoria's voice followed, still solid. But as the notes pushed higher, something changed. Her neck tensed. Her shoulders rose, betraying the strain. D5. E5. A5. And then she reached for the C6. Her voice cracked. It broke somewhere around a sharp, a step and a half below the target. The sound shattered like glass. Victoria stopped abruptly. Coughed. Tried to cover it with a laugh. "Sorry, folks." Dry throat. But Isaiah had heard enough. And so had everyone else. "You didn't hit it," he said quietly. Victoria turned to him, her smile now a thin line. "My voice is tired. But on your album, you hit that note 23 times. I counted. And in every live video online, you hit it perfectly every single time." The audience shifted. Phones came out. People started looking at each other. "What are you trying to say?" Victoria's voice had an edge now, the polished veneer cracking. Isaiah took a deep breath. "I have perfect pitch. I can identify frequencies. The note on your album is 1046.5 Hz. C6. What you just sang was 932 Hz. A sharp 5. Someone in the audience whispered, "Is he right?" Isaiah continued, the words pouring out now like water from a dam. And the voice on the album, it doesn't sound like you. It's a man's voice. I looked up the album credits. It says, Daniel Foster, additional vocals. The theater exploded in whispers. Victoria stepped toward him, no longer smiling. You need to stop talking right now. Why? Isaiah asked. Because I'm telling the truth? Victoria advanced toward Isaiah, eyes burning with fury. You're a child. You don't know what you're talking about. I know what I heard at rehearsal. I know what I'm hearing now. Isaiah looked at the audience, at the cameras, at the 4 million people watching. That note isn't hers. She's been using playback for years. The theater exploded. Shouts, whispers, phones filming from every angle. Victoria grabbed Isaiah's arm. Not hard enough to hurt, but hard enough to control. It's over. You're leaving my stage now. But before she could drag him off stage, a voice came from backstage. Actually, he's right. Everyone turned. A man stepped out of the shadows. Kevin Marshall, Victoria's sound engineer for 6 years. Face pale, hands trembling, but determined. I've worked with her since 2018. At every show, I play that backing track. She's never sung that note live. Not once. Victoria released Isaiah's arm as if she'd been shocked. You're fired, she whispered. I know. Kevin looked at Isaiah. But this kid is 11 years old and braver than I've been for 6 years. The silence in the theater was absolute. 800 people holding their breath. 4 million online without blinking. Victoria tried to regain control. This is ridiculous. You're going to believe a child and a resentful employee? I have 3 Grammys. I've sold 15 million albums. Then prove he's wrong. Someone shouted from the audience. Sing the note. I already did. No, you didn't. We heard. You failed. The crowd was turning against her. Victoria looked at Isaiah with something that made the boy step back. Anger, yes. But also fear. Fine, she said through her teeth. You think you're so special? Sing it. Now. No preparation, no warm-up, no second chances. Let's see what you're made of. Isaiah's hands trembled. This was the moment where he either proved himself or became exactly what Victoria said he was. The school music teacher's voice, Mrs. Patterson, came from the choir section. You can do it, baby. Sing like you do at church. Isaiah closed his eyes. Took a deep breath. Felt the air fill his lungs. Felt his diaphragm expand. Felt every lesson he had learned in that small Baptist church settle into his bones. He opened his eyes and signaled to the band. They started again. The intro to Heavenly for the second time that night, but everything was different now. Isaiah began to sing. His voice started soft, almost hesitant. The first verse was low, comfortable, well within his range. He focused on the words, on the story the song was telling. Some people in the audience exchanged glances. He was good, sure. But nothing special yet. Then he reached the pre-chorus. His voice opened up, gaining power without losing control. There was something raw and honest in his tone that hadn't been in Victoria's polished performance. He wasn't performing. He was testifying. The melody climbed. D5. E5. F5. His voice followed effortlessly, each note pure and clear. No sign of strain. Victoria shifted her weight from one foot to the other. Her jaw tightened. The bridge approached. The moment where she had failed. Isaiah didn't hesitate. He shifted registers smoothly, moving from chest voice to head voice without any break. G5. A5. B5. The audience sat up straighter. And then he reached the C6. The note came out clean. No crack, no strain, no trick. Just a pure, sustained sound in the whistle register that echoed through the theater like a cathedral bell. He held it for 4 seconds. The sound was crystalline. Perfect. Impossible. Someone in the front row gasped. But Isaiah wasn't done. He took the note higher. D6. E6. F6. Territory that Victoria's backing track had never even attempted. His face was calm, almost serene, as he explored the upper reaches of his range with the confidence of someone who had lived there his whole life. Then he brought it back down. F6 to C6 to A5 to F5. Each transition seamless, each note a small miracle. He finished the bridge and moved into the final chorus, his voice now fully open, no longer hiding, no longer afraid. When he sang the last word and let the sound fade into silence, nobody moved. Then the theater erupted. 800 people on their feet, screaming, applauding, some with tears streaming down their faces. The Lincoln Elementary School choir was jumping. Mrs. Patterson had both hands over her mouth. The online stream went crazy. In 30 seconds, 50,000 people had shared the video. In 1 minute, Isaiah Williams was trending worldwide. Isaiah stood in the center of the stage, breathing hard, not quite believing what had just happened. Victoria Chase looked like she'd been struck by lightning. Her face had gone from red to gray. A woman in the front row stood up. Denise Taylor, R&B legend, guest judge for the event. She was crying. "That," Denise said, her voice thick with emotion, "is the best thing I've heard from an 11-year-old in my entire career. Boy, you didn't just hit the note. You own it." The applause grew louder. Another judge, Thomas Reed, a music producer who had worked with Beyoncé and Kendrick Lamar, was shaking his head. "I need to say something." He stood up. "I've been in this industry for 25 years. What we just witnessed was an 11-year-old child singing a note that the woman famous for it can't actually hit." The audience fell silent, the weight of his words settling. Thomas turned to the crowd. "That album track? I mixed it. I was there. And Isaiah is right. It's not Victoria's voice. It's Daniel Foster, a studio singer in Nashville. They paid him $8,000 and made him sign a confidentiality agreement. He never got proper credit." Victoria tried to speak, but no sound came out. "I stayed quiet because that's what you do in this industry." Thomas continued. "You protect the star. Protect the money. But I'm done protecting lies. Especially when an 11-year-old boy has more courage than I've had in 2 decades. The theater erupted again. Journalists typing frantically, people shouting questions, cameras abandoning fixed positions. Victoria finally found her voice. "This is insane. You're going to destroy my career over a backing track? Everyone uses them. Beyoncé uses them. But they don't pretend they're singing live." Denise shot back. "They don't sell tickets to shows promising real performance and then lip sync. That's fraud, Victoria." Victoria turned to Isaiah, and for a moment, he saw something in her eyes that made him step back. Murderous rage. Absolute terror. "You're going to regret this," she said low enough for his microphone to catch. "You and your miserable little school and your nobody teacher. I'll make sure you never work in this industry. Understand? Never." The threat hung in the air, captured by every camera. Isaiah swallowed hard. But he didn't look away. "I'm 11 years old, ma'am. I don't work in the industry. I just sing because I love it. And that you can't take away from me." He paused. "But maybe someone should take it away from you." The theater went wild. Victoria looked around at the cameras, at the ruins of everything she had built. Then she walked off stage without another word. The fall of Victoria Chase was swift and brutal. Within 24 hours, 3 major sponsors canceled contracts. Within 48, the record label terminated the deal. Within a week, the Grammy Committee announced a review of her awards, citing fraudulent representation of vocal performance. First time in history that had happened. Daniel Foster, the studio singer from Nashville, posted a video confirming everything. Contracts, confidentiality agreements, original recordings. 7 other studio singers came forward in the following weeks, revealing that Victoria wasn't the only artist using ghost voices. The industry trembled. Victoria tried to sue Isaiah for defamation. $10 million against an 11-year-old boy. Her lawyers showed up at the tiny apartment in Oakland with documents and threats. Isaiah's mother, Diane, held the paper with trembling hands. "We don't have money for a lawyer." But they didn't need one. A week later, a legal team offered pro bono representation. Celebrities covered costs. John Legend tweeted, "Protect this kid." Alicia Keys offered to pay any legal expenses. Victoria's lawsuit was dismissed in 3 months. The judge called it a frivolous attempt to silence truthful speech and sanctioned her lawyers. 6 months later, Victoria Chase declared bankruptcy. Mansion sold. Cars auctioned. All 3 Grammys were officially revoked. She ended up teaching vocal technique at an online college nobody knew. But this story isn't about her fall. It's about what rose in its place. Isaiah turned down 5 record label offers. His mother said no to all of them. He's 11 years old. He needs to be a child first. Instead, he signed with an independent label. Unusual contract, no albums required until 16, creative control guaranteed, ownership of his own music. And 15% of earnings went to a fund he created. Unbreakable Voices. Scholarships for young singers from poor communities. Free vocal training, music theory, and legal education about contracts and rights. 50 scholarships in the first year. 200 by the third. California passed a new law. Isaiah's Law. Required transparency when live shows used pre-recorded vocals. Tickets had to disclose it. Violation was consumer fraud. 12 states adopted similar laws within 18 months. Daniel Foster released his own album. Won a real Grammy. In his acceptance speech, he thanked Isaiah. I stayed silent for 10 years. An 11-year-old boy showed me what courage really looks like. 1 year after the gala, Isaiah performed at the Grammys. 12 now. Still at the same school. Still sharing a room with his mother and grandmother. Still singing at church every Sunday. He walked on stage in a simple suit that Loretta had chosen. No elaborate production. Just him, a piano, and his voice. When he hit the final note, a sustained C6 that echoed through the Staples Center, 18,000 people rose to their feet. Not because it was impossible. Because it was true. Loretta watched from the audience, tears streaming down her wrinkled face. I told you, baby, she whispered. God didn't give you that voice for you to swallow it. Isaiah didn't destroy Victoria Chase. He simply sang the truth. And sometimes, the truth is the highest note there is. If this story touched you, subscribe to the channel and leave in the comments. Has anyone ever tried to make you small? How did you respond? Turn on notifications because here we believe every voice deserves to be heard. Especially the ones the world tries to silence.